chapter. All right, so as I said, we'll be calling up the chairman of today's event. And before we call him up, we'd like to give a brief overview of his biography. Dr. Olatunbosun Olagundoye received a BS honors in 1994 in physics, an MSc in petroleum geophysics with research in rock physics analysis and well log interpretation, and a PhD in petroleum geophysics with specialization in integrated geophysical basin analysis, all from the University of Calabar in Calabar, Nigeria. He served as a geophysics lecturer in the Department of Geology at the University of Calabar, Nigeria from 1996 to 2004. He served as a geophysicist at Elf Petroleum Nigeria from 2004 to 2005, as an exploration geophysicist at Total in France from 2005 to 2008, and as an exploration geophysicist at Total Nigeria from 2008 to 2011. He also served as a reservoir characterization geophysicist at Total Nigeria from 2011 to 2012, as a senior reservoir characterizational geophysicist at Total Nigeria from 2012 to 2013, as a senior reservoir geophysicist at Total in France from 2013 to 2016, a senior reservoir geophysicist and pre-specialist in quantitative seismic interpretation at Total from 2016 to 2021, and he was appointed a global specialist in QR and SRC by Total Energies in 2021 and currently serves as manager, geology and geophysicist specialties at Total Energies Nigeria, where he oversees seismic characterization subjects. He received a Nigerian government postgraduate scholarship in 1998 and was the Nigerian Mining and Geosciences Society Young Geoscientist Awardee in 2002. He's a member of NGS, that's the Nigerian Association of Petroleum, of NAPE as well, of AAPG, of SEG and SPE. Is the sponsor of the Best Geophysics Paper Award at the NAPE conference every year. And his research interests include aeromagnetic data interpretation and modeling, rock physics, well log interpretation, and quantitative seismic interpretation, seismic reservoir characterization, direct hydrocarbon indicator analysis, amplitude variation with offset AVA studies, seismic inversion, and seismic attributes. And he has 26 scientific publications in reputable journals. He is a certified petroleum geophysicist, fluent in English and French, while his hobbies include football and chess. So with a round of applause, let us welcome his opening remarks. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, everyone. I say good morning because I'm almost at the North Pole. It's my pleasure and honor to be the chairman of this occasion. Firstly, because my #1 association professionally is NAPE. I've been with NAPE for a lot of years now. Of course, there's SEG and the rest and APG. But when Mr. Edward contacted me to be chairman of this occasion, it was quite an honor for me. The second reason, of course, is the presenter is my very, very good friend. I would say we've known each other for almost 40 years, but as kids when we were growing up and also as lecturers. In fact, we shared the same office space back then in University of Calabar when I was a lecturer. I would say he's also my emotional bulwark if I want to key into the safety moment speech. We've known each other for a long, long time. We've spent pleasurable times growing up and also as professional colleagues. Football, chess, a lot of things. There's a lot I can say about him. I don't doubt his character. I don't doubt his technical expertise. We've shared the same office space. We've lectured together. We've co-authored a paper together, one on the Anambra Basin. So when I was asked to come and chair his presentation, I remembered our days in our youth back then. And Professor Andy, I'm so proud of you. I have a lot of admiration for you. Yes, you're now a prof. I wish I could have become one, but of course, I had to seek
Yeah.
seek some other pastures. And the Benin chapter, I thank you so much for this opportunity. I see that you are one of the chapters that is really making NAPE proud, and I'm happy to be here. So that's all for me for now. So I think I have to read, the next is for me to read the presenter's profile, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay, well, I really wouldn't like to read this. I can say a lot more than what he has written here. Of course, that's because he's quite a modest person. But I'll read it just for formalities. Jonah Ukpong is a professor of geology. He has a PhD degree in biostratigraphy / exploration geology from the prestigious University of Calabar, which of course I'm an alumnus of. He started his professional career as an assistant micropaleontologist in South Sea Petroleum Consultants in Port Harcourt in 1998, after a 1-year NYSC program with the company. He also worked briefly with Environmental Research and Geosciences Limited, Port Harcourt, before joining the services of the University of Calabar as an assistant lecturer in 2004. Prof, remember that you were squatting with me in my office. or was I the squatter or you were the squatter? He's currently the Deputy Dean at the Faculty of Physical Sciences, University of Calabar. Professor Ukpong has been involved in extensive field work. Yes, I can really attest to that. I remember days, boot camp days in the Calabar Flank and Urban Massif, and research in various areas in the Calabar Flank. Beyond his research interests in the Calabar Flank, he has also participated in several consultancy projects in the Niger Delta and other parts of Nigeria. Yes, I can attest to that. Anambra Basin. Professor Ukpong won the second prize of the prestigious NMGS Total Award for 2019. Yes, I remember that award as given by the company that I work for. And I remember those days in France when one of you came over. So Professor Ukpong, I like to call him Andy. So the floor is yours. I don't doubt that you have the expertise, and I'm sure you are going to enrich us with knowledge on the Calabar Flank. I wish you the best in the presentation, and kudos. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So before we commence the presentation, we would like to reiterate the meeting ground rules. For our online attendees, make sure to mute your mic and turn off your camera. If you have any questions in the course of presentation, type your questions in the chat box, and the questions will be taken at the end of the presentation. Please include your name and affiliation with your question. Thank you. All right, and now over to our presenter. Over to you, Prof. Thanks, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that elaborate introduction. I feel humbled, and I want to thank the Benin chapter for having me here. I'll be talking on the hydrocarbon implications and environmental signatures of the Cenomanian-Turonian Boundary Event in the Calabar Flank, southeastern Nigeria. This presentation will follow this outline. We'll run through introduction and down to conclusion. The earlier study on Oceanic Anoxic Events, which is abbreviated as OAEs, was carried out in the mid-70s and is defined as global scale transient period of marine anoxia. And during this period, you have widespread deposition of organic rich carbon sediments. And this took place at two boundaries, which is the Aptian-Albian and the Cenomanian-Turonian boundaries. The second one is the OAE2, which is otherwise known as the Cenomanian-Turonian Boundary Event, and is characterized by deposition of finely laminated organic rich carbon sediments under anoxic conditions. That's where you don't have oxygen during deposition of sediments. And this boundary is one of the most studied boundaries in the Cretaceous and is dated 93.3 million years. Widespread and prominent, And it occurred during warmest intervals of Cretaceous greenhouse when you have bottom waters experiencing high temperatures in excess of 25 degrees centigrade. And in the Calabar Flank, you've had intensive research in this boundary to try to characterize the marine biota that will define this boundary. And this boundary is typically represented worldwide by the ocean organic rich deposits. And in the Calabar Flank, that deposit is the Ukpong shale. The Calabar Flank is a segment of the southeastern flank of the Benue Trough. And the Benue Trough is a failed rift, which is known as the Lacugen. And it originated in relation to the separation of the South American from Africa and the equatorial Atlantic domain. This will be shown in figure 1. What characterizes this Calabar Flank is the system of northwest-southeast trending step faults. And this forms the host and graben structures that are found in the Calabar Flank. These structures form the major tectonic elements of the Calabar Flank. Jung suggested that subsequent stratigraphic development of the Calabar Flank was controlled by these vertical tectonics as well as static sea level changes. So this figure 1 shows the Southern Atlantic margin where you had the separation. This is the arm of the rift that failed. This one opened up properly, it's triple junction. The one from this end opened up properly, but this one failed, giving rise to the Lacugen Benue Trough, which Calabar Flank origin is also closely related to this structure or this development. Calabar Flank is that part of southern Nigeria sedimentary basins characterized by crustal block faulting that trends in the northwest-southeast direction, and the sedimentary basin extends from the southern margins of the Urban Massif in the north to the Calabar Hinge Line, which is the Niger Delta Hinge Line in the south, and you have southern sediment thickening that separates the Calabar Flank from the Niger Delta Basin. And it's also bordered in the west by the Igbe platform, and in the east by the Cameroon volcanics. But I had a colleague when we were doing PhD, was working on the Mamfe Basin, he's a Cameroonian, so he actually went to ground truthing and established that there's another basin that separates the Calabar Flank from the Cameroon volcanics. And that basin is the Rio del Rey Basin, which is found around where you have the green circle. So it's established through ground truthing that the eastern boundary of the Calabar Flank is not the Cameroon volcanics, but rather the Rio del Rey Basin, which is centered around here. And that basin is prolific, it's producing hydrocarbon. This is the structural element and conceptual subsurface of the Calabar Flank. So here is the Kang Trough and then the Pay platform. So this is the host and graben structures that characterizes the Calabar Flank. And this structure trends in the northwest-southeast direction as against the Benue Trough that the major trending is northeast-southwest. So sediments of the Benue Trough are confined between the Chen and Charcot fracture that trends in this direction, while sediments in the Calabar Flank are confined within these host and graben structures that trend in northwest-southeast. And then the northern margin is the Urban Massif here, is the basement complex. And then this is the Calabar Flank extending to the Calabar Hinge Line that separates the Niger Delta, which is recognized by southern sediment thickening. Sedimentation field in the southern Nigeria was controlled by 3 tectonic faces, and this resulted in development of various sub-basins in the Benue Trough. We realized that the Calabar Flank, Mbra Basin, even the Niger Delta have been put as sub-basins in the Benue Trough in subsequent definitions by researchers. Jung, however, recognized two of these tectonic cycles in the Benue Trough and the Calabar Flank, and he attributed the variations in the sediment field from one part of the margin to the other, to degree of differences in the geologic evolution of these distinct segments of the margin. And this is a table that is presented by Jung to show the variations in the sedimentation pattern in the two basins. For me, my take here is basically the structural trend, which is here and here. And then I also consider very important the compressional movements that dominated the Benue Trough, whereas in the Calabar Flank, you had simple vertical movements with folding of the Cenomanian and older sediments. It's not responding. Please, can I have next slide, please? Thank you. In terms of stratigraphy, you have different authors that have worked over time and have proposed or erected different stratigraphic sections for the Calabar Flank. And the definition by Jung that the Calabar Flank is a distinct province with its own peculiar tectonic style and attendant stratigraphic evolution resulted in the revision of the stratigraphic subdivisions that were available by Peters et al. In 1995. And total sediment thickness in the Calabar Flank is put at about 3,000 meters. And these are the various schemes that were erected over time. This one is the one that was erected after definition of this flank as a distinct stratigraphic, a distinct basin. The one of 1996 here, 1995 here. But going forward, Peters tried to redefine the sediment field and proposed, erected one that he called an unnamed shale, which to me, with all due respect, I don't really see any difference between the unnamed shale and the Ukpong shale that was erected previously. That's my own personal opinion, though, with all due respect to him. The study well had 4 wells that were considered in this study. Those are the locations T, X, ET, and X2. So that is the sample location map showing well cores that were recovered from those wells that was used for this study. And we used 49 core samples were collected from 4 wells that were collected at 5 meters interval, and in course of preparation, they were composted to 10 meters interval. And the approach of Brazier and Armstrong and Brazier 1980, 2005 were used during the sample preparation, or were adopted rather. And this involved taking the quantity of the sample, about 20 grams, and put in a petri dish, an enamel dish, and then you add sodium carbonate, 1 spoonful of sodium carbonate and hydrosodium carbonate, and then you top up with water, allow it to stand for 24 hours for thorough disintegration. Thereafter, it was washed using 63 micron sieve and under a jet of running water, which you call wet sieving. And after that, it was, the samples were turned back into the enamel container and dried in the oven under optimum temperature. After that, it was split into different size fractions, of course, medium and fine. And what followed next was the picking. And thereafter, you had grouping. And then in the course of analysis, several monographs and published materials were used. We compared the samples we had with standard type sections, or type collections rather. Then we did quantitative analysis using the number of species per count, number of species count per sample to establish abundance and diversity of the forams. Those were peaks of importance. Okay, these were some of the materials that we used in the course of sample preparation. And this is forum identification chart, and that's my mentee. Studied, had a PhD under me, looking at some of these things under the microscope. This is the slide after the picking. This is what it looks like, and then we'll try to now group them by separating the forams that have been extracted, constrain the morphological features to try to put them together. Then you now go further into the analysis by also identifying them down to species level. And this is the logs that we obtained. So we had, in terms of lithology, we had 2 distinct lithologic units recognized in well X, and then we had only 1 lithologic unit in the 3 wells. 2 lithologic units were limestone and shales, which was tested by 1 well, that's the well X. The shale unit belongs to the Ukpong shale. That is what is of interest to us because of the boundary we're looking at, because of the characteristics of the deposits we're looking at. So that is the Ukpong shale that was deposited during that period we're looking at, Cenomanian-Turonian in the Calabar Flank. This is biostratigraphic chart for one of the wells, well ET. And what I want us to really note is that, we have agglutinated forams are very scarce here. Then we had a lot of plantics that dominate here. And then we hardly have any calcareous benthic forms. And the foram count, abundance, diversity were used in determining the paleoenvironments that are presented there. Next slide, please. The same thing is recorded here. See a lot of plantics, they dominate here. Benthics are not much, diversity is not much, but you notice that they are mostly arenaceous, hardly have calcareous benthics, and we use that to determine the paleoenvironment. And the same thing happens here, and also in this other well. What I want to say here that is very important to me is that if you look at the distribution of the forams, you notice that you have a lot of planktic forams, Hedbergella, Heterohelix, and then foraminifera, benthic, arenaceous, and then you see there's no calcareous. So you hardly have calcareous forms in this collection. This is a pure indicator of paleoanoxia. And the forms are also stressed and depauperate. So these forms we got here were used in determination of the age of the sediments that were penetrated by the well. Typical Cenomanian-Turonian forms are Heterohelix, moremani, just a Heterohelix and Hedbergella. These are indicators of Cenomanian-Turonian boundary interval. And then you also, these same forms have been used by several other authors to identify this age interval. Agglutinated forams are complete. I will note that agglutinated benthic forams and complete absence of calcareous benthic forams. This is suggestion, typical indicator of oxygen deficient bottom conditions during deposition. So if you look at those wells just showed, you realize that you have a lot of planktics, and then the benthics are agglutinated and not calcareous, which is indication of paleoanoxia. So it means that agglutinated forams, they are deposited and with the planktics when the environment has low oxygen during deposition. And you have abundant but dwarfed planktic forams. And the rest, this has been also confirmed by other workers. I brought in this is a sea level curve with this sequence stratigraphy in the Calabar Flank using subsurface section. And you notice that we were able to identify MFSs and HSTs and the TSTs. We use the MFSs to date them in the Calabar Flank. The sea level curve in the red is the local sea level, while the one in blue is the global sea level, which was tied to the Hack et al., Hadenboll et al., and other sea level charts that were available. And notice that this is purely the well-penetrated Ukpong shell. Ukpong shell had interbeds of marls and there's mudstone. They had siltstones towards the base in this other well. So sequence stratigraphy, we're able to do identify system tracks, HST and the TSTs. And this is a cross plot of generation potential versus TOC. And we realized that the samples, this one is a research that was done by Ogide. I had to integrate several other work to be able to put my point straight. So you look at the plot of GP versus TOC, where you have almost all the values falling within fair to good. As a plot, cross plot of generation potential, hydrocarbon generation potential. And then this is also another cross plot of S2, that is the hydrocarbon that could be still extracted if it's further subjected to high temperature versus TOT. And they fall within fair to good. And this one is the hydrogen index versus Tmax plot, which depicts the kerogen type. You realize that most of those samples were falling within type 3 kerogen. In type 3 kerogen, you also have a few in type 2. And this is depicting that you're within the oil window, they fall within here and up to here. So your oil window and wet gas window. And the inverse is also, the plot is also turned the other way. And then you have all those plots falling within gas and then oil and gas. This is plotting here, but most of them are plotting around this area. This depth versus calculated maturity of a Ukpong shale. Sorry, so you have this other plot falling within 0.6 to 1.1. It shows that the Ukpong shales are mostly early mature here up to late mature, but mostly they are peak mature in this plot. And then for the vitrinite reflectance, the value here is the arrow value 0.6 to 1.1. And if you look at 0.6 is here, 1.1 is here. That's strictly the oil window. But if you consider the one that they do a comparative analysis, not the calculated, 0.6 is here, 1.1 is here, which also accommodates the wet gas. So that's where the values fell within. So this study penetrated shales, little units, which belong to the Ukpong shale, the Calabar Flank. Biostratigraphic results reveal fairly high abundant low diversity of forum species with high abundance and diversity of palynomorphs. Palynomorphs were brought in here just for age control strictly, because I had to integrate, it was integrated in the other study that had sequence stratigraphy, and it was used basically for age control here. And so this was made possible by presence of the following age diagnostic forms. So these were the forms that were used to determine the Cenomanian-Turonian age. And the assigned age is known as one of the warmest periods of the past 300 million years, with tropical sea surface temperatures well over 30 degrees centigrade. And also had atmospheric carbon dioxide levels being very high because of volcanogenic, so gases as a result of volcanics, which was also experienced in the Calabar Flank. In terms of the environmental signatures of this Cenomanian-Turonian band in the Calabar Flank, we said that the thick, dark organic rich sediments, which is the Ukpong shale, is one of the signatures to show that that is the Cenomanian-Turonian Boundary Event. And the other signature is the presence of abundant but dwarf planktic foraminifera and presence of low diversity dwarfed agglutinated forms. We also have complete absence of various benthic forms, then co-occurrences of these arenaceous forms. In terms of hydrocarbon potentials or implications, we see that the generation potential TOC in the Ukpong shell is indicative of fair to good source rocks. And the S2/TOC plot of the Ukpong shell is indicative of fair to good source rocks as well. The hydrogen index and Tmax plot of the Ukpong shell fall within the oil window and sediments are mature. The Tmax and HI plots of the Ukpong shell is indicative of gas prone, and viginal reflectance value of 0.6 to 1.1 shows that the Ukpong shell is within the oil window. Lithofascists of the Ukpong shell are mostly TST and HST, and this constitutes good potential gas-prone source rocks, while the thick shell lithologic unit F4. So we can say that the thick shell litho unit, that's the Ukpong shell, constitutes good source rocks. These are the references which I have to put it here because I used their work, and these are the slides I used from foraminifera plates. And these are some of the forams that were also used, identified the Heterohelix, the illicit Hedbergella. And the second one is the forum slides for the arenaceous benthic forms. In terms of appreciation, I want to sincerely thank the executive of NAPE, Benin chapter, and national executive of NAPE. Special thanks goes to my Department of Geology, University of Calabar, and the Physical Sciences. And I won't fail to thank South Sea Petroleum Consultants for their continuous support in my research work. I want to also thank the authors that gave me their work so freely to use the public domain. Thank you very much for listening.
For today. Thank you very much, sir, for that. Before we move on to the recap, which will be given by the chairperson of today's event, would like to recognize a former executive of NAPE in person of Mr. Ajibola Oyebamiji, FNAPE, the former president of NAPE, and would also like to recognize a fellow of NAPE in person of Dr. Victor Ogujiofor, FNAPE. Thank you very much for joining us today. So to give us a quick recap of the presentation, we'd like to welcome the chairperson of today's event, Mr. Olatubosun, for the recap.
Thank you, moderator. And thank you, Professor Aniediobong, for that erudite and brilliant presentation. There are quite a lot of take-homes from me, and I'll try to make it summarize briefly, so I don't take a lot of the time. But from what I could summarize on the subject, I'll start first with the understanding that you've given us regarding the differences between the Benue Trough and the Calabar Flank in terms of tectonics. Clearly, both of them have different structural alignments based on what you've shown to us, with the Calabar Flank having a dominant northwest to southeast, and the reverse for the Benue Trough. In terms of structuration or tectonics, I could understand that primarily the Benue Trough is more of a compressive regime, and then the Calabar Flank is mostly dominated by vertical movements. That was quite interesting in terms of letting us understand that both of them are quite distinct basins in terms of tectonics, which is a standard way of distinguishing basins anyway. And then the second point has to do with the way you clearly defined the methodology and your conclusions based on the use of 4 wells, which you have pseudo-named. I can understand that that you pseudo-named them because of confidentiality reasons. But what was quite interesting was the dating that you also undertook in order to establish their anorexia, that the anoxia that you referred to in terms of MFS dating, and establishing that there are 2 dominant lithofascist regimes in terms of TSTs and HSTs, which brought us into the context of how you were able to define the OAEs for the Calabar Flank. Then you move next to letting us have a proof of the palynomorphs that you defined for the Ukpong shales in terms of 3 distinct characters Sorry, somebody's hand is up. Does somebody want to? I think
Please
Mr.
continue, sir. We'll take the questions after your recap.
Okay, so the three primary proofs are the abundance of planktonic benthics and arenaceous benthics, and the lack of very insufficient quantity of calcareous benthics, which again is proof of anoxia in the Ukpong shales. Then we move next to the signatures that you spoke about, which again is quite important when you look at the environmental signatures, because one of the primary things you will use to define major stratigraphic boundaries are those signatures in terms of the organic rich sediments, the presence of what I mentioned earlier in terms of planktic and arenaceous foraminifera, and the absence of the calcareous units, and the co-occurrence of certain amobaculates and all that, which is proof that anoxia occurred and are strong environmental signatures of that boundary in the Calabar Flank. Then in terms of hydrocarbon potential, which is something that is quite important for us in the oil industry, I could see that you really spent quite some time in elaborating on that in terms of the analysis that you've done. In terms of generation potential, fair to good, kerogen type 3 to 2, mostly within the oil and wet gas window. And in terms of maturity, we're able to show that the maturity is also is also coherent with the collagen type. So we still have the reflectance and peak maturity falling within the oil window and wet gas. So in my opinion, quite a good presentation, very good. A strong build up from the problem statement down to the objectives, and then the methodology was quite good, and then the results are in line with work of other people. Although you had a a brief moment where you had a brief disagreement with one of our very learned profs of African geology, which is understandable because that's the beauty of research. It's okay to disagree and put factors in line with that. So in that light, I will just ask one question so that I don't take as a part of the recap. I'm really interested in this your simple disagreement of the unnamed shale, because I can understand that obviously you took some samples even in this unnamed shale. So when you look at the foraminifera within the unnamed shale in quote and the entire Ukpong shale series, my guess is that you didn't see any difference between the two of them. Is that correct? Or could you just throw maybe a 30 seconds light on your brief disagreement on this part, at least just for us as researchers and all industry professionals and academics and students to share from your knowledge? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Wait. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. If I understand you well, you're asking me to shed light on the reason why I tend to disagree a little with my teacher, my mentor. I know it's difficult, but in geology, yes, that's true. But in geology, it's like an elephant. So where you touch and where the blind man will touch, wherever you touch and you're sure, you hold on to it. I can recall that in one of his publications, he lumped Ogu, Aniediobong, and called it Nkalagu. Some reasons that they were similar. He was talking about the litho characteristics or something. And then here, in terms of age, those depositions are of the same age. They contain the same characteristic foraminiferal assemblages. And I think the reason he proposed is that there is a regressive phase, which is the interbeds that characterize the Ukpong shale, the mudstone interbeds, that the unnamed shale has a boundary with the thin mudstone interbed. But we realized that the Ukpong shell as a whole is shell sequence with thin interbeds of marls, that's the mudstones. That means above this boundary of this unnamed shell in quotes, you still have interbeds of mudstone. So how do you really clearly define one as unnamed and the other one was previously part of what was called the Ukpong shell? So I think based on age, yeah, same, based on little characteristics, they are the same. So I don't really think there should be any further redefining needs of that Ukpong formation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Prof. That's well noted, and I think that also brings some research topic for the students and other academics in this line, so that we can all have a final synthesis of this subdivision. Thank you. So I hand over the floor to the moderator.
Thank you very much, sir. Before we take the comment from or question from Mr. Aniediobong, I'd like to recognize the presence of Mr. Alex Taka, FNAPE, a former president of NAPE. You're welcome, sir. We have a hand raised, Mr. Ajibola Oyebamiji, FNAPE. Okay, so Mr. Ajibola, you're able to speak. Kindly give your comment or question. Mr. Ajibola, can you hear us? We can't hear you clearly. Please, if you can attempt to rejoin the meeting and come back with your question. So next we'll be taking Inusa Isa. You're able to speak. Kindly unmute and ask your question or your.
Thank you very much for organizing this great and wonderful webinar. My name is Inusa Isa. I'm a former intern from NEFL and currently the president of SPE of Bahrain University chapter. Right. Based on the presentation under this trophy, my question is what are the differences or what makes the Calabar Flank different from the Benue Trough, let me say region or field, based on the presentation? And between them, which one is better in terms of, let me say, reservoir management or, let me say, production prospect in the future? Thank you.
Right, thank you. Thank you.
Can hear me?
Sure.
If I heard you well, you said, what's the difference between Calabar Flank and the Benue Trough, and which one is better in terms of management? Reservoir capabilities. All right, thank you very much, Hanusa. I've spotted the difference clearly. Basic difference is the structural alignment of the features, which are peculiar to each of the basins, in as much as they were developing at about the same time. The litho units are more or less similar because as limestones were also being deposited in the Calabar Flank, also had deposition in the Benue Trough. The same thing applies to the shales. For the Calabar Flank, yes, I've said here that it has good potential for gas. For the Benue Trough, yes, people have also worked on it and said that they have good potentials. For reservoirs in the Calabar Flank, was migration of oil, the up deep the mouths, which can have dissolution to large caverns, forming good reservoirs. Limestones as well. So I think the reservoirs are in place, even for the two basins. But my worry is how much oil is there, because I think it's more of gas prone because you had volcanics, 2 wells that were worked on sometime, and some other wells, one, another well, Uran 1, and in the course of analysis, volcanics were identified, and these are causes of high temperature, which probably reservoirs are in place. Reservoirs are in place. Thank you very much. The oil is mostly gas prone, and maybe what we should bother about is the traps, whether they're actually very good or not.
Yeah, if I may come in there, Professor Andy, that's quite your answer is quite apt. Just to add to your comment, I share your opinion that one of the major killing factors, when I say killing, not really a showstopper, is the fact that the trap integrity for the Calabar Flank will not be like what you have in the Benue Trough. If you take Anambra Basin, for instance, for some people say that the Anambra Basin is part of the Benue Trough. If you look at the Anambra Basin, the trap configuration integrity will be much better than what you have in the Calabar Flank. Main reason, the volcanics in the Calabar Flank, like you said, high temperature and all that, will breach, affect maturity and also probably breach already existing traps. And then, of course, we can also argue that maybe in some basins globally, we still have volcanics acting as some kind of lateral traps and all that. But in the Calabar Flank, that really isn't the case. And of course, again, the Anambra Basin, yes, is also gas prone, and the Calabar Flank too is gas prone. And your explanation of the structural alignment differences is also apt in terms of differentiation. Of course, the Benue Trough is a much larger basin than the Calabar Flank. But all this is work in progress. The only disadvantage that we have now is that we have a very prolific basin, which is Niger Delta, and in terms of economics, everybody is there. Not many people want to come into the inland basins, but I know that NMPC is actively encouraging people to do that. They're drilling in the upper Benue Trough and all that. With time, a lot of this will open up, especially for the gas-prone basins where we have a lot of demand for gas. So if we are able to tap into the gas potentials of the inland basins close to the population, that will be something for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your comments. Thank you for the answer. We have 2 hands raised. First, we'll take Mr. Aniediobong. Sir, you're able to speak. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thanks. Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Prof. I love your presentation. I mean, it was comprehensive. Going from the field to the laboratory, and of course, you dived into the petroleum industry in terms of applications. It's really commendable. It's been quite some time that I saw fossils. So when I saw those SCM of some of those foraminifera, especially the Heterohelix, the amovaculitis, and all of that, I was quite happy because this is my for several years. I've been seeing fossils for quite a long time. So thank you for bringing this to the front. I mean, I'm equally glad that we still have biostratigraphers in the industry. You agree with me that biostratigraphers are dying, or they've almost gone, but Prof, thank you for bringing this up.
Thank you.
To the fore. And I know that you are training some of your students. What I would tell them is they have a future if you decide to be a biostratigrapher, because I started as a biostratigrapher all my life. I was looking at microscope every day for like 12, 15 years, and I never used glasses. So, it's quite encouraging. One of the things, I mean, I saw all of you brought in the application from the industry. I don't know if I missed out the fact that those peaks that you showed. I don't know if I missed out whether you dated them in terms of absolute ages. I'm not too sure. If you did not, I think it's important, instead of talking of a wide range Cenomanian-Turonian age, you should be talking about specifics in terms of absolute age, so that we can pin it down. Because in the industry, we talk about plays. We don't talk about wide play. Because you are looking at prospect level scale. So you use your maximum flooding surfaces to be able to constrain your play. Early Cenomanian within so and so age range in absolute ages, and that helps a lot, because you are now sure of those figures. Unless when you are not sure, which is what I would advise you to do. Your student can actually go into looking at nanofossil assemblies, because that's very rich foraminifera, both in terms of those two chambers, planktonics, as well as very good arenaceous forms. So I will charge you to commission one of your students, either a PhD level, to incorporate both nanofossil foraminifera and perhaps even some of the dinoflagellates, that you can actually tie those peaks properly. That will make a complete study. This would be my advice. There's no harm in disagreeing with what someone did several years ago. It means that geology is dynamic. It's not something that, oh, okay, this is the rule of thumb. At the end of the day, technologies are evolving, new things are happening. So we make changes where you have seen and you are quite sure of what you have done. And I want to commend you. I want to thank the Benin chapter for bringing this kind of presentation to the front. Thanks, everyone. This is just my comment. If you have anything to say about the maximum flooding surface, please, you can go ahead. Again, please, let's desist from using pseudo wells. The industry is the same now. Nobody puts pseudo wells on anything. We put the well names. I was at Aniediobong presentation earlier this month. They put the name of the well, Umilelu well. So there's nothing hidden. Not hidden. Thank you very much. Well done, Prof. Well done.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate your comments and inputs. I feel humble, and I've been able to train somebody up to PhD. He's a graduate now, and he's doing well. I told him he should do better than me. That's a sign of success. If you do better than your father, you've actually succeeded. So I have one already. I have others on the pipeline. And the peaks were actually dated. That's why I used Galloway sequence, where I had forms in the MFSs. So the ones that are actually dated there, yes, were tied to the global sea level charts. You notice that there are some peaks that were not dated. They were not dated because they were not fourth order cycles. They were fourth order cycles because third order cycles are dated in the charts. But you had local events, which we couldn't actually date. We only indicated the peaks. But going forward, like you advised, I will encourage somebody to delve into the nano as a biostratigraphic tool, and also see how we can integrate to enhance results of what we've been working on over the years. Thank you very much.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor and the moderator. Just give me a few seconds. Just to handle the pseudonym of the wells. Yes, I can agree that nowadays wells carry their true names, but sometimes it can be quite cumbersome when you understand that sometimes there's a lot of process involved in getting approvals to use the real names of fields and wells. I know that in publications that I've had, even recently, I've had to use pseudonyms for the same reasons. What is important, I think, is for the author to specifically state the reason for the confidentiality, as is done in reputable journals, if he cannot use the right names. Because if you want to toe the line of 80% of the scientific population that will use the real names, you find out that they got approvals for that. So I think that may be the case. I may be wrong in terms of the current presenter. Prof, is that the case?
The truth is that the wells were drilled by different people. We had some people that came to do exploration for cement. We had some wells. Some people came to do exploration for oil, Narak Energy. Although they didn't actually drill, but most of there's an organization right now, White Peaks, that has started drilling some wells in the Calabar Flank. And I don't think it would be proper to carry somebody's information because we're privileged to work for him or work with him and put in the public for another person that will just get it. That's the reason I didn't want to put the real names.
Yeah, that's valid.
That's a respect
Thank
for
you.
the person that spent resources to acquire the data.
Yeah, in actual fact, it's actually illegal to do that if you use a name of without approval from the owner, and also in some cases, if it's an oil well, you also need approval from, if I'm correct, NUMS and NMPC. So it's a long process. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have a few questions from in the chat box. Before we take these questions, we'd like to recognize the presence of Dr. Princeton Jim, the OCA OAE chapter coordinator. You're welcome. Our first question from our online attendees that's been typed in the chat box says, what are the challenges and opportunities for hydrocarbon exploration in the Calabar Flank? And our second question asks, what are the key uncertainties or controversies in understanding the stratigraphy of the Calabar Flank, and how can they be addressed through further research? So we have a question asking, what are the challenges and opportunities for hydrocarbon exploration in the Calabar Flank? And the second one asking, what are the key uncertainties or controversies in understanding the stratigraphy of the Calabar Flank, and how can they be addressed through future research?
Thank you very much. I will take the first one. So what are the challenges and opportunities for hydrocarbon in the Calabar Flank? I would say that Calabar Flank is one of the least explored area. Exploration peaked there in the 50s, late 50s. And when they hit oil, large quantity in the younger basins, attention shifted, and nobody will want to take risk and invest where he's not very certain. So the challenges is that enough work has not been done. Nobody has said there's no oil in the Calabar Flank. It's not said anywhere. But everybody that's worked there is bold enough to say that there is prospect. So in terms of challenges, that there's no much data available because there's no funding. And since major companies are not interested in small finds, you have challenges of bringing them into the Cretaceous basins. For opportunities, yes. If a company is willing to invest, chances are that they will hit hydrocarbon, at least the gas. Thank you very much. And then for the uncertainties in understanding the stratigraphy of Calabar Flank and how they can be addressed. Like I said earlier, for you to get your geology right, you have to go to the field. If you have enough wells drilled, if you have enough road sections, and you walk into the field, enter the forest, look at stream sections, you'll be able to also build up and contribute to the stratigraphic section in the Calabar Flank. And you cannot understand what you've not studied deeply. So I would encourage even the person that asked the question to also hit the field and also see things for himself. We are all working towards making contributions. And I'm sure that at the end of the day, at the end of the exploration exercise that is going on now in Calabar Flank, the stratigraphic section will be enhanced. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So we'll take a question from Clement Chukwuka. If you're able to speak, can you unmute and ask your question?
Thank you very much. And I think it's good afternoon. Confirm you can hear me okay where you are.
Yes, you can.
Fantastic. Great presentation, Prof. I liked it. And also great contribution from the attendees. My take is slightly different. And I think we need to begin to think about the Calabar Flank a little bit differently than a conventional system. And it's something that the university can actually help promote. There's a lot of literature about the Calabar Flank. I think a lot of work has also been done, coming from, listening to you, building on existing work done. I think we are near sufficient, right, to begin to drive that narrative. What I would say is that we need to promote a bit differently the potentials of the Calabar Flank from a conventional system to an unconventional system, particularly shale and tight. It's not everywhere you invoke a conventional system and it works. What we have been trying to do with the Ukpong shales and the Calabar Flank in general is that we've been trying to invoke a conventional system, a conventional hydrocarbon system on it. And if you look at everything about the Calabar Flank, that conventional system may not work. So when you go to Calabar Flank and you're drilling wells, you're looking for those massive reservoirs with high porosities and permeabilities, you may not find them, right? So the thought I have here is how can we take this a bit further, but on a different path that gives us the same solution. And that is to invoke the unconventional system for the Calabar Flank. And I've seen this across. If you take the Ukpong shale and you compare it to the Eagle Ford in Texas, they are smack on. Both are Cenomanian-Turonian. Everything you've talked about, you can find it in the Eagle Ford. Now, even the TOC levels you mentioned, they're even better. So whether you talk about tight oil or shale gas, the potentials for it in Ukpong, it's there. But we may not be able to build that conventional model for the Calabar Flank and have it work. So what I'm suggesting is for the university to take a step back and try to invoke an unconventional model for the Calabar Flank. Eagle Ford is about 66 TCF of gas in it. It may be laterally bigger than the Calabar Flank, but no doubt the TCO values you've presented, you've talked about, the conditions, everything is very similar to the Eagle Ford. And there are still other locations that are very similar, but the Eagle Ford is one that I can, classically tie to that Ukpong, the Calabar Flank area. So I would suggest, because this is NAPI, our idea is, find oil and gas. That's what we do, right? So I would suggest that the university can come up with something to do a comprehensive basin model analysis of the Calabar Flank, zooming in on the Ukpong shales and see where that lends us to. And from there, we can go ahead to propose an unconventional system, which from the data you've shown, I think it's going to work. An unconventional system for the Ukpong shale and, the Calabar Flank in its entirety. And from that point, market it. Because what an investor is looking out for is someone to shine the torch, right? And that's what you're doing. You're shining the torch, but we don't want to limit the Calabar Flank to the conventionals. And that's all the questions I'm hearing here. Let's try the unconventional, do that basin modeling, put it in.
Mr. Clement, we can't hear you.
Very valid contribution.
So just give a minute to see if he's able to return or resolve his network issue. So would you like to respond to the...
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Clement. I really appreciate your contributions. They're very noteworthy. I've taken note of it. And like you said, there's some other basin somewhere else in a different part of the world that has similar characteristics like the Calabar Flank. Calabar Flank even have some advantages in terms of better characteristics. So this is a take home for me. And the good thing is that there is currently exploration exercise going on by White Page for petroleum. So whatever, and interestingly, they're partnering with the Department of Geology at the University of Calabar. So as I get back, I will draw the attention of the head of department and possibly the vice chancellor to the fact that we should take advantage of that exploration exercise and then use the data they will generate, because we will be the custodians of the data more or less, because we are the ones to analyze the data for them. So we'll have unlimited access. Let's use that opportunity to do a comprehensive basin-wide model with particular interest in the Ukpong shale, and that could be marketable. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. So now we're taking our final question from Dr. Victor Ogujiofor. Sir, you're able to speak. Kindly unmute your mic.
Okay. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, loud and clear.
We highly grateful that we're having things like this. And on daily basis, we are adding enormous value to NAPE. It's a long time we started this organization, and we know how we are when we started. So can you hear me, please?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So listening to Prof this afternoon is something to be joyous about, because we are improving on daily basis. What that means is that there's still some little work to be done. It only means that all of us, in our little ways, should find means to contribute to see that we improve on daily basis. I think I don't need to emphasize on so many other things, because a lot of people have spoken and spoken very well. So it's for us to just continue to improve on whatever we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. So like I said, we have a window of opportunity right now because it's exploration for oil that is ongoing. And like I said, as I get back, I will meet the head of department, and we'll have a very different perspective going forward in terms of our target at the end of that exercise. Thank you very much, sir, for the encouragement.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Prof. And on that note, we've come to the end of the Q&A session for today's technical meeting. We'll now be moving on to announcements by the PRO of the NAPE Benin chapter, Mr. Stephen Sakos. Sir.
Excuse me, sorry, Madam Moderator. Just a few seconds. I just want to say something. I've just been chatting with Mr. Clement Chukwuka, who raised the point on the basin modeling. He said he had network issues and has been trying to get back in. Just for your information, maybe if he can get back in later. But I've told him that his point is well noted, is brilliant, and that the presenters volunteered to work in that line with the company that's exploring and also the university. So just for the information of the House, in terms of the collar being not the collar having network issues, I think it's a brilliant idea. And in fact, for me, it's just unfortunate. I know that in the past, when I was University of Calabar as a lecturer, we had a petroleum chair. That would have been something that a chair like that will have a research chair. I think it was Shell or Mobil. Those are things that universities can walk into, do, and also reach out to the oil industry. If you reach out to some of our companies, I'm sure we may not be able to foot the entire bill, but I'm sure a couple of companies and even NNPC may also be inclined towards, this basin modeling approach of looking at the Ukpong shales in terms of actually tapping from the source rock itself, like it's done in Texas and some other tight basins. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for those comments. We appreciate your proactive engagement with Mr. Clement to clarify that is network issues. Sir Pierre, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Damilola, for anchoring this meeting. My name is Steven Saku, so I'm quickly going to give us a brief announcement of what we should expect from our association. And first one is actually our membership drive and also the payment of our dues. For the student is 2,000, and this is a reminder for many of the students that have joined the call. You have to update your membership. It's part of your obligation to the association. For active membership and associate is 12,000, and for corporate members like NEPL, NSAF, and the rest is 50,000 naira. So when you pay your dues, you can kindly also send a teller to eua@natpay.org.ng just to notify us for to update the records. And the payment is actually very seamless. Just go to the UBA account and just pay when you pay, then you can now notify her. So we also have some upcoming events for this year. This is actually taking place in Cape Town, South Africa. It's an energy growth through an enabling environment. It will take place between the 4th and the 8th of November, 2024. So we are all encouraged to register and also participate. Our annual international conference and exhibition is coming up this year too, and it's between the 10th and 14th of November. And the topic is resolving the Nigerian energy trilemma, energy security, sustainable growth, and affordability. So there is a catch there for us. For early bird registration for the conference is 90,000. So if you missed this, you are going to pay 120,000 from November. So for those of us that are already on the call, it's a very valid information that we should work with and make sure that we catch the early birds so that we can register on time for the conference. Next slide. So we're also calling for abstract from many people. Prof is also here, so we need an abstract from you too, so that you can be part of the technical section during the conference. So we are going to have some of our conference sponsors. So first one, the platinum sponsor is my darling company, NNPCL. We have ExxonMobil, Eni, First EMP, Health Energies, and the Western Cross. We have Titanium sponsor, we have SPDC, we have Seplat, have Annie, Eradile, Chevron, and NCMDB. For the platform, and the Future Concerns Group, the goal sponsors, the FHN, Nigeria, Australian Energy, Silver sponsors, Petrodata, EIGL, YEP, and we have the bronze sponsor, Danvik Petroleum International, Bulwark. So, as I've talked about the membership, so one of the things that is going to happen this year is our elections. And this is the timeline. So from 1st of September, that is when voting begins. And it's only for members that are up to date. So don't disenfranchise yourself. Register and be up to date. And also you have the opportunity to also vote for your new executives. So the window is going to open live on the 1st of September, where the voting will commence, and it's going to end on the 15th of October, where the result is going to be announced. So some of our candidates, this is for the president-elect, Mrs. Olajimi Ojayi. And we have for the general secretary, Dr. Christopher Jackson. For the financial secretary, Mrs. Tabitemi Elgore. For publicity secretary, Mrs. Somini Okuntola. For the treasurer, we have 2 contestants. So the other ones are actually unopposed. And of these ones, we have to actually cut. For all of them, we're actually going to vote to actually validate all the things that is going to happen. So we have, for the treasurer, we have Mr. Emeka Ezekwelu, and also Dr. Kayinde Alaferie. And for the editor-in-chief too, we also have 2 contestants, Dr. Adekunle Solafolo, and Mr. Oluseyi Kon. Thank you. And also for the assistant general secretary, we have Mr. Lucky Iwu and Mrs. Onome Jonathan Olarotimi and Dr. Afolabi Oluwajana. And for the editor-in-chief too, we also have 2 contestants, Mr. Ogba Nuku and Mr. Lawrence Ibrahim Dungs. Thank you so much. And I want to yield the floor to the president-elect, because this actually falls directly under his peer view, for also to give us his comments.
Right. Confirm you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, perfect. All right. No, many thanks and good afternoon. The Benin chapter coordinator and entire executive members of Benin chapter, and again, all protocol, I see already recognition. By the way, let me also acknowledge, I don't know, the lady that has been moderating, she's done an excellent job, I must say. Typically, as you know, this is under continuous education program, which I chair. So again, all the technical meetings I manage. Sometimes when I go to chapter meetings, it's not done properly, but I must say today it's done excellently well, even sometimes better than I do. So I want to just give that compliment to the lady that is moderating. So that's number one. Thank you very much. And then I wanted to say thanks for, just very quickly, I know the president will also make a comment on that, but the speaker, and the chair, just to acknowledge your contribution, because again, the knowledge base of the industry is us. And if I was just also reflecting, since we started in January till date, because I've been in most of the technical meetings, if anybody have attended all, I'm not sure what else is left to study in geoscience, because we've moved from Niger Delta, Anambra Basin, Benue Trough, Calabar Flank, oil and gas production, all kinds of topics, in academia and the industry. So I think we are really, in my mind, as snappy, achieving exactly what we intend to achieve. So kudos to everybody that has been involved, and well done for being, if you look at the number of attendants, you've been a strong base in terms of membership drive for this association. So kudos to what Benin chapter is doing. So let me very quickly also then emphasize the conference that was already mentioned. Things are building up, as you can see. The sponsors are there, which NNPC, yourself, doing quite well, and many other companies whom their members are on the call. Abstracts already all fully done, so the team are working now to write the letter of acceptance, and then the standard abstract is going to continue. I thought we have also very high number of submissions. So again, quite good. Exhibition all done. So, but your attendance is then critical because you need to make sure you secure your slots in the sense that we've planned for you in November with lots of very rich activities. Actually, starting for some of you that want to play golf on the 26th of October at Abuja, and then other pre-conference short courses into the main conference itself from the 11th of November until the award night on Thursday, where some of the people that I mentioned here will also be installed as executive members. So I want to urge you, those on the call, those in the room, to please make sure you register and participate actively, and then continue to be part of this continuous education program, i.e. the technical meetings. I do know that Benin chapter, you do have one more to go, I think sometime before end of September. So let's continue to be part of this as we become the real hard rock of the knowledge base of the industry. As Clement said, our ideas find oil and gas. But well done for all you do. And hopefully we'll see every single one of you on the call in Lagos in November for the conference. Thank you very much. I'm back to you in the room again.
Thank you very much, sir. So next we'll be moving to our plaque presentation. That will be done by the chapter coordinator, Mr. Edward Oza.
Well, thank you very much. But this one we done at the viewing center. Maybe we can escape this one. We need to, our president is already on the call. He has been here for a very long time. The other, with your kind permission, sir, the president of NAPE, we do other thing, the plaque presentation at the viewing center. We have about 3 viewing centers here in NEPA. Maybe I will continue. We'll allow you to make your closing remarks. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you so much, the chapter coordinator. And let me also toe the line of the P to appreciate Benin chapter for this topic. And I know that in this current year, we have discussed a lot, and this is also another significant topic that is relevant to our field, and I'm sure as time goes by, we'll continue to navigate through the complexity of this subject, and I know that a lot has been suggested. NAPE, as usual, in whatever way and shape that we can also play to bring to fruition the aspiration of having a model that can speak in more details to us, we will definitely do. And, this is the time that we have to explore as much as we can and use that resources that we get from our fossil fuel to navigate our way into the energy transition. And I can always say we are not going to leave anything behind. So the more we can explore, the more we can understand the basics, the better that we will have understanding of how to, to explore for hydrocarbon, for oil and gas. So I want to thank everyone. Thanks, Professor Ukpong, for that insightful and erudite presentation, and the chairman also for the contribution, and everyone that have contributed to this discussion today. We'll continue to provide that platform where we can interact, share our ideas together, and bring in opportunity for collaboration to improve the knowledge that we have about majority of our basin. So thank you, everyone, and I look forward to welcoming everyone to NAPE November conference in Lagos, and also other chapters, technical presentation that are still forthcoming. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful afternoon. Over to you, my coordinator.
Thank you very much, sir. On that note, we've come to the end of this monthly technical meeting. As the president-elect has already said, we have our next one in September, and the date for that is the 24th of September. So for all our attendees, we look forward to seeing you then. Further activities for this meeting will be coordinated by the chapter coordinator Thank you all for attending, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. The president, maybe we will continue the activities at the viewing center. That should be done physical. So thank you for attending.